Text you. Okay, yeah, give me an update. Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 5:07 p.m. Thank you. We have directors present tonight, Director Nimmo, Director Kuhlenberg, myself, and Director Ramirez and Director After. Thank you to which means we have a quorum. Thank you to our interpreter, Astrid. Would you please share the interpretation instructions with our participants? And then we can turn on the interpretation function. Thank you. The first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any proposed changes to the agenda tonight?
I propose that we move item 10.1 from items to action to a standalone discussion item, calling it 9.1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. All right. Our next business in order is an executive session pursuant to section 24-6-4024E. Is that an I or an L? One. CRS, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators specifically as to the school district's contracts with Carbondale Community School and Two Rivers Community School, inviting Dr. Anna Cole, Chief Chicoine, Dr. Stacy Park, and Jonathan Landon. Do I have a motion to move into executive session? You got to read the whole thing.
Here, I move that the Board of Education move into executive session pursuant to section 24-6-4024E1 CRS, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators specifically as to the school district's contracts with Carbondale Community School and Two Rivers Community School.
Thank you. The board will now move into executive session. The time is 5:09 p.m. No, I messed up. Point of order on myself here. I apologize. I should have asked for a second on that motion to move into executive session from Director After. Do I have a second on that?
I second.
Thank you, Director Kuhlenberg. The board will now move into executive session. The time is 5:09 p.m. It is 6:22 PM and the board has returned from executive session. Our next item on the agenda is our opening celebration and updates by our superintendent, Dr. Anna Cole.
Okay, good evening. A couple of celebrations for this evening. We are in our last week of our Access for English Language Learners testing this week. So I want to share thanks to everyone who's supporting this very important assessment for emerging bilingual students. The Access testing measures students' academic English language proficiency in listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So it requires a big lift in terms of administering this assessment. So really want to thank all of our professionals from our culturally and linguistically diverse education department who are administering this test and supporting students. And then big kudos to the students for really leaning in on this rigorous assessment. Additionally, this is kind of high season for labor relations and collaborative bargaining season. And so I want to recognize and appreciate all of the certified, classified, and admin interest-based bargaining representatives who dedicate substantial amounts of time and energy to engage in this work. We are working on a wide range of challenging issues related to staff working conditions, salaries, and benefits, issues that ultimately impact how staff can show up as their best selves, ready to support and sustain high-quality learning environments for our students. So many thanks to those teams for leaning on relationships, collaboration, and proactive problem-solving in support of Roaring Fork Schools students and staff. And then also want to thank our finance team. We know this is a tough budgeting season. It's going to be tough for the foreseeable future, but the team has been working really hard to meet what I would say are aggressive budget calendar targets. But the team this year was able to provide schools their budgets over a month sooner than we did last year, really providing them a lot of time for planning, for consultation, for conversations about how they're going to staff schools in the 26-27 school year. So this really results in additional time for building leaders to work on budgets. So want to really appreciate the finance team, Chief Chacoin and her crew, and all the school leaders and building leadership teams who are starting to really, I mean, even though we're in the midst of a really busy school year, starting to think ahead at 26-27 and how to make sure we are providing high quality learning experiences for kids. And then just want to remind folks that Monday is President's Day holiday and we will be off and back in school on Tuesday, February 17th. Thanks.
Thanks. The next business in order is a presentation by Dr. Anna Cole. And sorry, my list is a little short here on who else is joining her up there. And after which each board member will have 2 minutes to share comments or ask questions.
Okay, so with me is Chief Chacoin, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Brockman, Chief of Human Resources and Talent. We are delighted to be able to really kind of publicly update the board on some of the work from our mill levy override exploratory committee. So just want to give the board and our community a high level update on what we've been working on, the kind of current thinking from the committee. As the board is well aware, anything that we work on and propose in terms of a mill levy override purpose, ballot language, intent, utilization, all comes down to board approval and will result, can't move forward without your support. So I want to make sure that you all know what we're working on, what we're thinking about, and where we're headed. Okay, so we're going to talk about the committee itself, the opportunity that this presents, our current thinking around the purpose for a mill levy proposal and ballot initiative, some critical information, and then some timelines and next steps. You can see here we've been, this is the committee that kind of started to consider this opportunity, what it might be used for. We have a lot of representative leaders from our certified, classified, and admin interest-based bargaining teams, and leaders from across the district working on this. Director DeFreitas represents the board on the committee. I'm going to pass this over to Chief Chacoin to talk through the opportunity presented.
Yes, thank you. So when we're looking at the timing of this whole thing, a few years ago back, I think it was 2 years ago now, the legislature had actually reduced our cost of living in the total program funding formula. That was a reduction of the district, a pretty significant reduction to the district. And at the same time they did that, they actually increased the cap for the mill levy override based upon a percentage of total program funding. And so we have a certain number of years to be able to ask the voters for this cost of living increase or a mill levy override to get to that new cap. So our cap would be going from 25% to 30%. And then if we have a 5-year window to be able to get it, keep it at that 30%, and then it would move back down to 25% if nothing was passed. So just to let you know that impact. And let's see here. So that's why we're exploring this for starting this upcoming November.
Whenever we're exploring something like this, we know that we're accountable to our stakeholders. And so there's always a question out there about what this money is for. And I was just chatting with a parent on my way up here. He's a CRES parent and his boys are in kindergarten and in second grade. And we talked about his teachers. His kindergarten son has a pretty young teacher in her first few years, and his second grade son has a veteran teacher who has been here for decades. And the thing that we are aim to do with these funds is to put a high quality teacher in every classroom in our district. We know that that is the most important critical thing that we can be doing to drive towards our district mission. And so knowing that we live in such a high cost of living area and that salaries for our staff lag behind, it is about recruitment and retention, and it's hard to get people to come here and it's hard to get them to stay sometimes, but this is really about outcomes for our students.
Did you want to do that too? Okay. So thank you. So some of the factoids, I guess you would call them, about what a mill levy is. And because some of the jargon, we just want to make sure everybody understands what a mill levy override is. It's a voter approved property tax for operational needs not covered by the state. There are bond funds and there are mill levy override funds. Bond funds are usually used for capital construction for buildings. That is not what this is. The mill levy override is what we're requesting, which is for operational needs only. We have been looking at the cost and what we could garner to get to that cap, that 30% cap I was talking about earlier. And it currently looks at about $4.5 million annually that would potentially be requested. That would get us to that 30% cap. This is something that is fungible depending upon the number of students and all of those types of factors. So we all understand with the enrollment numbers that have been a bit sporadic lately, that this number is subject to change. But this is our current estimate. And based on that estimate, the taxpayer impact would be $16 per 100,000 of residential property and $57 per 100,000 of commercial property, because commercial is assessed at a different rate than residential. And then if it fails, there would be a challenge with us continuing to keep up with our salaries and increase the cost of living in the valley, which we already are having some struggles with over the last couple of years of declining enrollment. And as you're aware, with the $2.2 million net revenue reduction for last year, it's really tough to maintain our competitive edge with those types of financial impacts to the district and financial squeeze that we have going on to stay competitive and to make sure that we're doing the best we can to make sure we're keeping up with the cost of living. And the community value to this, strong schools, stabilize property values, and support the local economy.
So what's coming next in terms of this work? So our exploratory committee will continue to do research. What you're seeing right now is our current thinking on what we would prioritize, what we would promote through this potential ballot initiative. And it's still subject to learning more, hearing more. We're very anxious to hear the board's thoughts and reflections on the work thus far. We are planning to do a bit of a road show to start having some forums and talk more to community members. So in the month of March, we'll be out and about sharing more information with folks and are going to start publishing some of those dates and times. And then the board can anticipate that in sometime around August or September, we will likely bring you a proposal with ballot language and a potential action to move this forward in the November election. So the board really has ultimate say on everything from ballot language to focus to utilization. And we want to make sure that there's lots of time for conversation and discussion around our current thinking. I think we're ready for questions.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and begin with Director After.
Thank you. And thanks to the team that's put a lot of time into the thinking on this already. If this fails, are we risking, it says on the slide, uncompetitive salaries. Would there be an immediate impact if this fails? In terms of reductions in force?
You know, I would say, I mean, there's a lot that has to happen before it even passes or fails. And so we have a lot of hoops to jump through, especially with your approval and support of any sort of ballot language. And then absolutely like voter community support. We are going to bring you for 26-27 a budget that's balanced and that we can operate and run high quality schools. It's going to be hard for 26-27, but we have an obligation to bring a functioning budget that's going to work. And that is completely irrespective of any sort of mill levy. And so, you know, our intent is to make sure that we are planning conservatively and thoughtfully for the years ahead and investing in opportunities and time and researching these kinds of opportunities like an MLO. And yet we still have an obligation to make sure we can run. And so I don't know if either of you have anything else on that one.
I think the only other thing that I may add is that with that $2.2 million reduction in revenue, it's going to be additionally, more challenging to keep up with our cost of living and increases to our steps and lanes for our teachers if there isn't anything that is done with the mill levy. So those impacts are fairly immediate in looking at our financial constraints.
Thanks. I think as I expressed in the finance committee meeting, I think this is good and this is important. And I think there's just a lot of really fair questions that the community could ask us when it comes to, I worry that our brand isn't really strong on finances right now. And I think it's a lot better than it was 2 years ago. And so, I'd love for us to, I'm sure you guys are already thinking about how to resolve any questions proactively that would come up to community members who are feeling like really strapped financially. So that's just one thought. If Anna, if you want to say anything about that.
I do, you know, the piece that we failed to mention that we'll be sharing more information is that we did launch a website today on the MLO Exploratory Committee, and there's an entire like frequently asked questions section. And so yes, we've anticipated some questions already that are in that FAQ, and we do need to figure out a mechanism to collect additional questions and get them uploaded on that website. So I will work on that. That's a good push. But we do have a bunch of that we've already thought that we're anticipating that are already going to be on that website. I think the website's live now.
Okay. And then, just one other thought would be to, maybe it's on the website or for these events and other discussions that are in the deck, but, I think it'd be good to know, for folks to know how the funding is going to be distributed, how quickly the funding is going to be distributed. I think we're learning, right now through the early childhood tax experience that money can be collected from sales tax, for example, without a real clear picture of when it's going to start to be distributed to stakeholders. And I hope that we can avoid that fate. Thanks.
Can I just make one additional comment in regard to your question about the branding? We are working very hard in the finance department, especially to assure that that all the stakeholders are going to feel comfortable that we are putting processes in place financially that are going to last decades, even post date me, just to make sure that we're fiscally transparent and accountable to our community moving forward. And that message is going to continue to be discussed, and we're going to give specific examples of how, and making sure that people feel that we are responsible with their taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Ramirez?
Can you guys please share how increasing staff salaries, I mean, I know that we're talking about staffing, and I know under your leadership, Dr. Cole, we've been really intentional to talk about centering students. And so can you please share more on the measurable gains that we're gonna see from this?
Good question. Maybe I'll start and then Chief Schikling or Brockman, I can kick to you. In terms of, that's a great question in terms of measurable gains. I would name that the things that we're measuring when we think of the strategic priority on thriving teams that we're looking for is making sure that we are recruiting and retaining a staff that reflects the diversity of our students in our community. And we don't quite do that quite yet. And so some of the measurable things that we're hoping to see by having an additional allocation of resources, that we have more tools in our toolkit to better meet those goals of having our faculty reflect the diversity of our kids and communities. So that's one thing that we'll be monitoring, is just in the kind of demographic makeup of who's in front of our students. Because the research shows us that, especially for diverse populations of students, they need to see diverse populations of teachers. And there is an academic, there are direct academic outcomes just by having faculty who reflect the lived diversity of kids in the classroom. So we're anticipating that if we can meet that goal that the strategic plan is presenting about making sure that we recruit and retain a high quality representative staff, that we'll start to see student outcomes improve simply because of that. The other piece that we're trying to move is really making sure that we can continue to recruit and retain high quality teachers, because we know that stability really matters for kids. And anyone who's had kids in our district for more than 3 years can probably count at least on one, if not two hands, if they're in high school, the number of beloved teachers who have left the Valley because of cost of living. And so one of the other things we're hoping to see strengthen is just that we are able to have more tenured, high quality staff who can live here and stay here. So I would say those are the first things that I would look to be tracking, and that then what would, they're kind of these immediate indicators, or do we have high quality certified staff in every role? We really struggle to staff certified high quality teachers in certain roles like high school math and science, special education, and we don't always have the right certificate. Like can't always find people with the right certifications. We have lots of tools to help people get those, but we need to make sure that we can have that tie-in with certifications that are appropriate for content areas, and make sure people have the experience to teach in the field that they're teaching in. And so I'd say initial demographics of faculty is a first measure, and then what we would expect to move is student outcomes. Anything that I missed, Amy? Okay.
So can you talk about like specific student outcomes? Do you guys have a target for that?
I mean, certainly our strategic plan has a ton of goals and targets around both in-year measures, what we're wanting to see on assessments like NWA and DIBELS, and the board will get a presentation on that on the 25th when we do our mid-year strategic plan update. And then we have in the strategic plan as well, the kind of end of year measures for student outcomes that we're looking for in terms of proficiency on our end of year assessments, CMAS, PSAT, graduation rates, all of the metrics that we're measuring through the strategic plan would be the kinds of things that we're hoping this sort of an investment will move.
And will we see those gains year one, year two? I'm just trying to get a feel for what our expectations are with this.
A high quality, impactful teacher will see impacts from their work within a year. And we can see it in the growth of a certain grade level. And we can look and certainly when we look at, and our schools are looking at, say, their CMAS or their PSAT data, they can look and go, wow, something really cool is happening in fourth grade. and know that that fourth grade team is on fire and they're getting high outcomes from kids. And so we do see pretty quick turnaround with high impact teachers in the classroom. I don't know if I fully answered that.
Is there any data collection that the MLO exploratory committee has talked about in making sure that there is an accountability piece on that?
You know, I would say at this point, no, because the initiative is so tightly aligned to strategic priority number 4 on thriving team, and because of the targets already and the kind of rigorous learning for all. And if folks are like, Anna, what are you talking about? Our strategic plan dashboard, which is on our website. If you look for strategic plan, you go to the dashboard, there's all kinds of metrics that we've set as a team related to our strategic plan. And I think because this current thinking around what we would use an MLO funding for is so tightly aligned to the intent of that strategic plan, we would expect it to move those metrics over time.
I mean, I echo the appreciation to the exploratory team. I think it's been a lot of really important work to start having these conversations. Obviously, we all feel the financial crunch, and we know that we are in very uncertain times. And I still feel like there should be some sort of tool for us as a district to ensure that this MLO and the money we're asking from voters is actually helping close the achievement gap that we've been really pushing for over the last couple of years. This board has been really diligent to not just say that that is one of our priorities, but I think we've really focused our language as a team to say that we're student-centered. And so I would want you guys to pursue a conversation on what that means for voters when we are saying, like, you know, we're committed to this and we want to see this through, but this is the data that we're going to be collecting to make sure that this is effective.
It's a good push. We can certainly make the MLO website that we just launched has some basic information and it'll iterate. And one of the things that we can absolutely do is create more of a through line between this current initiative and all the metrics that we'll measure. I mean, I'm even thinking on Thriving Team, where we measure staff turnover rates, is something we'd like to see go down. That should go down. Student outcomes should improve. Staff demographics should diversify. So there's a number of metrics that I think we could really lift up and connect more deeply to this initiative, which we haven't yet.
Yeah. And I'll just end with saying that I think, I appreciate the push on the staff diversity. I think it would be really important, though, for you guys to tie a deadline or some sort of expectation of when that will be achieved by, because we talk about it a lot. And it would be really important for us to say something will come to fruition by some deadline, some goal, some expectation. Thanks.
Director Kuhlenberg.
The legwork on this. I echo some of Director Ramirez's concerns around the accountability piece and seeing exactly where it's tied to the ultimate goal of frequency. And we say a lot that pretty much retention do not obviously teachers have the biggest impact, but if that's the route going, you have some accountability measure in place to say we're going to use it for bonuses for high performing teachers. We're going to use it for like I feel like we're at the point where we can be creative and be rewarding those people that are performing really well. Really well, and we don't want to put people. I am all for increasing our wages in every way possible because I know how hard it is to live in the valley and to live comfortably. And so my second question is really around, is this only for certified staff, or are we looking to increase wages for all of the other support staff that we all know are very wage now?
The committee's current thinking is that it's all staff.
It's all staff.
All staff.
Okay, great. And then, so I guess my only other question would be to echo Director Ramirez, but I think that I would encourage us to continue to lead with students first and ensure that wherever these dollars are going, they are impacting students in a measurable way. They can be reported back to the taxpayers to restore our community at large.
Director Nima.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Last year.
Tammy, is your mic on?
Is your mic on? Mine wasn't on.
No.
Nope.
Hit the button on top.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Okay. I just have some really simple questions. So we already have the mill levy.
We have other mill levies, yes. We have
Okay.
some historic that voters have approved historically.
And how long have we had those?
1999,
99.
02, 2021.
There was one other.
15, wasn't there one in 15?
That's a bond.
There was definitely a bond in 15. We can get back to you on the specifics.
Yes.
Just for a year each? No, they were
We still.
we still collect
Previous
off of
months.
those. Okay. And this one would be for how long? Indefinitely? Okay.
That would actually, the current thinking from the committee is that it would be perpetual, but that is also something that the ballot language can restrict.
Okay. All right. That's my question.
Thanks. So I've been working on this committee and appreciate the extra time, obviously, that staff has moved this forward and helped create these resources for community and for board. I would like to note the committee that's looking into it does include certified and classified staff and building leadership as well as board representation. So it's always been intended to serve all of those staff communities, which I think is great. I appreciate tying this work to the strategic plan that we already have in place. We have a lot of robust metrics around that. And echo director's interests in making sure that we are using kind of the already built platform as a way of driving accountability around how these dollars are used. So I just wanted to kind of plus that up. I appreciate that. And then if you don't mind, Dr. Cole, could you just one more time kind of walk us through the timeline? We have from here until the August, September approval of ballot language, and then talk about what happens between that point and the actual election.
Sure. We have clearly district professionals working on the research and the proposal and the ideas around this right now. Once the board approves ballot language for anything like this, we have to then shift very clearly into a neutral, non-political role where our only job is to educate our community on the pros and cons of any potential initiative that might impact our schools. And so the minute the board takes that sort of an action, we have to really stop doing this kind of work, because that's really when, often campaigns would get started. And of course, in our roles as school district employees, we can't be using our district time or taxpayer dollars to be working on campaigns. So that would shift the minute the board approves this. We have to be very much so in simply an educational role for our community.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions that are coming up, and the relationship piece and the trust building. Our district has been doing a lot of work on that and being more transparent in the financial decisions that we're making. All of the work that the finance team puts into bringing us those quarterly reports and staying accountable has also done a lot to serve this work in the long term. And I just want to say that staff is also adding to that even a little bit more outreach related specifically to it. It's a significant amount of time commitment from them, building relationships and answering those really difficult questions about fiscal responsibility is going to continue to be really important. Once again, just for board members and the staff, of course, we are in an education stage. We are not out there looking for votes. This is community feedback. This is outreach and education. So just to kind of make that really clear, there's a lot of people to hear from. We'll now have 5 minutes for open discussion if people have more questions.
I do. Will the state be able to claw more money back from us if we approve this, if voters approve this?
Will the state, say that again, I'm sorry.
Will the state of Colorado, if you approve a mill levy override, does that allow the state to provide less money to us in terms of per pupil funding or any other mechanism?
Thank you. No, no, the way that the mill levy override works is those are supplemental funds in addition to total program funding.
Okay.
So the only thing that the state has been talking about cutting is specific ownership tax, which is around the licensing fees that are based on the mill levy amounts for each one of the organizations that is divvied up in the counties. And so that's separate.
Do you have an update on the specific ownership tax situation and the governor's proposal to take that funding away from public schools.
Yeah, I don't yet. There's no outcome. They're all wrangling at the state. There's only rumor and conjecture, which I want to leave out for right now. But we're still optimistic that they'll move away from that as a cut for our district of 1.7 million. However, we are basing our estimates on a worst case scenario because the governor's current request in his budget still includes those reductions.
Okay, thanks. And then I just wanted to echo Director Kuhlenberg's point about really thinking creatively about how to deploy the funds if they are in fact able to be collected from taxpayers, because 4.5 million is going to go away really fast. And there's no end in sight to the cost of living increases that we're all experiencing. And we can't continually go ask taxpayers for more and more money to pay for what the state is not allocating to us. So I think we have to think really, really creatively about unique ways to do everything that you want to do, which will lead to better outcomes. But I think just like straight increases, they're going to evaporate in people's paychecks almost instantly. So I would just echo that, and thank you for saying that.
Can I answer the? Go ahead. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can I answer the question that Director Nemo had asked earlier? Is there's 4 mill levies. One is 1999, 2004, 2011, and 2020 was our last.
I'm going to lean into conjecture for a minute since Chief Chicoine won't. On the Legislative Resolutions Committee, I have heard pretty strong rumors that there is not a lot of interest in moving that forward. Barbara Kirkmeyer's taken it up personally as very openly against the special ownership tax being moved around. So hopefully that momentum continues, but again, it is still conjecture. So for what that's worth. Any other thoughts or comments? Lots more to come. Thank you all. Thanks. At this time, we welcome members of the public who have signed up to address the board. There are currently 2+, is that one on there? Thank you. Yes, you're on there. Got you. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. There are currently 3 members of the public signed up to speak tonight. Board allots 45 minutes for public comment. To respect the time of all who are present, speakers are to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Reminder to all speakers to uphold our procedures for public comment. We ask you to be thoughtful and constructive with your comments, and thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. Members of the public who wish to share their views with the board may also do so in writing at any time. For this evening's public comment, we did receive 1 written comment. Our first speaker is Tanner Giannetti.
We're good. The last minute, I was disgruntled to say the least. I felt as though the issues I've raised over the last month to rescind this understanding our body's curriculum throughout the district had fallen upon deaf ears, and I could not understand why. The conversations I've tried to have with the board and the superintendent have proven futile. I've only been met with circulation, pacification, and scripted protocol, or simply silence. After completing further research, though, I now understand why. Many members and officers of this board were involved with the adaptation of this curriculum in 2023, during which time this was extremely controversial and contentious as well. I'm not the first person you have heard from. So now this all makes sense. However, it is ironic that all the concerns that were presented at that time that were assured to be prevented are being seen in fruition today. I have formally requested the resources and data that was used during that time frame to better understand this board's disposition, scope, and logic. But now I can confidently say that this is apparent that this board is complicit and complacent with keeping this curriculum intact. I've thoroughly addressed the issues presented in this curriculum, as well as the failures in the parental notice protocol and parental rights that are being infringed upon. I have every intention of ensuring that the board of the district is held accountable and that this curriculum is pulled from the district. In closing, I leave you with this. If the district is going to supersede the state by mandating a health curriculum at this age level, shouldn't the district also supersede the standard parental notice protocol to go above and beyond to ensure that this is actually consent by the parents? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Parker Nuslanik.
Hello, and thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Parker Nuslanik. I come from a fourth generation ranching family in this district, and my two young boys are the fifth. They are currently enrolled at CRES in kindergarten and second grade. I'm here tonight to comment on the Understanding Our Bodies curriculum that has been put in place at CRES and across the district. I personally feel that this is not age appropriate and it has been implemented in our school and district without the proper due process and input from the parent community, which I feel infringes on our parental rights. I know you will tell me that you sent the curriculum home and we have the choice to opt our child out. Well, your efforts in communication are poor at best. We should have the option to opt in, not out. There should have been multiple communications throughout the school year. We are 6 months into this year, and you send this information out days before the class is being taught. My wife and I opted our second grader out of this program. Sorry, we opted both of our boys out of this program. And within 1 hour, we were notified he would be pulled out of the class today because it was being taught that afternoon. When my son got home that evening, he said his classmates came out panicked, stating they had seen pictures of penises and vaginas. He's 7. He then says, "Dad, this makes no sense. If we talk about privates in school, we get in trouble." You have created a mess that will continue to get messier if this curriculum is not pulled from CRES and the rest of the district. These are our children, not yours. You will not decide what is age appropriate for my 5 and 7-year-old. This is an at-home lesson, not a public school lesson. I hope you're ashamed of yourselves for not protecting our youth. I will continue to push for this to be removed and will not stop until it is, not only for my children, but for all of the children in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Rick Janies. Thank you.
Evening.
Good evening.
Evening. My name is Rick James. Let me get started here. Let me begin with, we are a 7-generation family in this community and have an unprecedented concern. Comprehensive health education, it is a controversial topic because you and the district board have made it so. 37 pages covering sexual and sex education, along with snippets of healthy relationships, healthy eating, just for some sugar thrown in for good measure. The curriculum on your own material will be robust, strong, vigorous, with the use of verbiage and graphics, broad, a large number and wide scope of subjects, subject content, current, created, developed specifically for children by the school, no parent approval. Who made the final decision as to what age appropriate when children learn on different levels, timeframes, and languages? One size does not fit at all. This material is available in Spanish as well as English, but as great-grandparents with 4 great-granddaughters who are 3/4 Spanish and have an extensive family that are Spanish, they haven't seen or heard anything of this program. Was it snuck into the paperwork just like his English version was in Spanish? I guarantee that the Hispanic community as a whole would not support this, nor do we. You say in the context that there is a clear way for a parent to opt their children out. There is if they had clear knowledge of this program in the first place, which there is not. How about the option change to opt your children into instead of out of? Otherwise, it is clearly indoctrination. Great Expectations has reconsidered their role in this curriculum because of the lack of financial resource. State funding has been significantly reduced and hopefully will be eliminated completely. It is past time for RE1 School District to hear and listen to what we are saying. We do not want this in our school. Get back to teaching our children comprehensive literacy, reading, writing, and arithmetic. You know how much time I got? Like 30 seconds. Let me say one thing. How many people in here have had parents? Raise your hand. Okay. What'd your parents teach you? The difference between right and wrong, respect, responsibility, morals, and ethics. Kids. Thank you, Rick James.
Thank you. The next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel, minutes from our previous board meeting, and a couple holiday corrections from our 26-27 academic calendar that were incorrectly indicated in the currently published version. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off the consent agenda for a separate discussion or vote? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please call the vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you. The next business in order is discussion on policies GBK, GC, GDBA, GDBC, GDO, and GDQB, along with repeals of policies GDBB, GDI, GDJ, GDN, and GDPC. We have staff here to talk us through a few of those, after which each board member will have 2 minutes to share comments or ask questions.
Questions?
Do you want to just get started with questions?
I had one, sorry.
Yeah.
If I can go first, sorry.
Of course.
We discussed AE in our last policy committee and that doesn't seem to have made it to the consent agenda. Did we need AE to come to consent to finalize that policy?
We did. We'll pull it on the 20th.
Okay, all right, great.
That's right.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose that one.
Good catch.
And then going through the other policies, we, in policy committee, talked a fair amount.
Sorry,
We can
just.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
take a moment. Folks, when you're finished, we'd love to have you guys take conversations outside or feel free to stay and join us for the rest of the meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you. If we can restart, Director Kuhlenberg, your comments on policy.
Sure. So just to go through some of them from policy committee on GC, you can see that there's the last line was struck. I had a question there about approving these classifications of employment, and it looks like we got advice that we don't need to do that. So that's great because that was a really confusing line. And a lot of these, the changes that I had proposed were really about just accountability, naming who would be the one responsible for doing these things. In the support, which one is it? Maybe I don't have it open. And the one, evaluation of support staff, we have support staff wages. I didn't see the language that we had talked about who would be. So when I read this, the rest of the board understands, when I read this, I felt like we were missing a piece here about who would be presenting these schedules to us and how often they would be presented to us as a board. Right now, it just says we'll approve schedules, but it's not really clear where they would come from. So I still feel like that's missing.
You're talking about GDBA.
Yes. And I can suggest
Yeah.
language. And I think that by law, we have to annually approve these wages, just like we do the others, right? So we could say
We were thinking that it would be part of an annual.
annual wage. Okay. So yeah, and that was my only real comment. I think everything else that I had thought of during policy committee had been addressed. So that was the only outstanding item that I had on these. And I'll try to type in some suggested language while other directors are asking questions.
Thanks. We were able to bring the policies to all of the classified leaders on Thursday at leadership. So they've all had eyes on that as well. Thanks.
Director Ramirez?
I don't have any questions. Was just going through making sure I didn't miss anything. I guess the only one's a GDBC for supplementary pay overtime. I just wanted to make sure when we're talking about overtime for, this is just classified, right?
Yep. Overtime is only available for
I feel like
non-exempt staff.
and actually maybe the thing is, so GC is professional staff. I guess my only hesitation right now is that it's a support staff supplementary. I'm wondering if it shouldn't say classified. But I see GDBA also says support staff wages.
It is interesting language that is used throughout. It is much more common for us to use the term classified staff.
But what is tricky about that is you have classified employees, like both of us, who are classified, but are overtime exempt. So we're salaried, so we can't be paid overtime, even though we're classified. So we have to
Few things to tease out.
yes. Does that make sense? So it's not all perfect language. Like maybe it'd be better to say like classified overtime exempt are the folks who can get time and a half once they're over 40 hours a week.
Yeah, I just felt like it was like too many. I wasn't sure who it was for necessarily because I'm like, there's so many acronyms.
It's for hourly
Just flag for you. So next meeting, we're going to bring up, because I put this in one of the comments, because I had the same question. Next meeting, we're reviewing the policy that defines who qualifies as support staff. Because I had the same,
Okay.
I said the same thing. I was like, who is this and what is this? But that's what it is.
Okay, thanks. That's super. If there is a way, I mean, and maybe that policy does it, but it would be helpful just because I think any new employee would come into these policies and be like, am I this?
I know it's in the description where it says non-exempt staff, so it's hourly time clock people, but I do think that after our next round of policies, it will
Thanks.
feel more coherent.
That was my only thing. Thank you.
Director Rector?
For some reason, I was able to open everything on my other computer and I can't open anything. I'm getting that. I need to learn the workaround. It's okay. I have
Mine's doing the same thing.
okay. Yeah, so I can't refer, but I did write down 2 questions. You okay?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, here's what I wrote down. Hopefully this makes sense. On GDBC, the first paragraph seems really subjective that the chief of HR decides. I assume there are actually standards for that. Do we need to refer to them?
There are standards about, FSLA and who is an hourly time clock employee and who is an exempt employee.
So does that seem clear enough? I don't know. In reading it, it makes it seem like, I don't know. You're just like sitting in a room, like picking who gets what.
That was updated language because it used to say the district will determine.
Okay,
I mean, I think you could just add the chief of human resources will determine
based on
federal law,
there,
which school
yeah,
district employees are subject to
Yeah.
in accordance with state and federal law. Like just add that
okay,
clause and that would take that subjectivity out of there.
thank you. And then GDO, which is the evaluation of support staff. I think I maybe misinterpreted it, but the way it is written reads as if we only evaluate support staff every 5 years. Is that correct? Or is it that we evaluate the software every 5 years?
I think it's that we don't really use software, but the system that we use as a tool for evaluation will be evaluated every 5 years.
Oh, that's funny because it's an evaluation of support staff policy. And now you're talking about evaluating a system. I was confused when I read it.
Right. So we do have a system for evaluating classified staff, and we don't want it to be totally dormant. So at least every 5 years, we'll be looking at it.
Okay, there might be some wordsmithing that could make it more clear. How often do we evaluate staff classified?
We strive to have classified staff participate in a self-assessment and a conversation with their supervisor, like sort of mid-year, and then again at the end of the year.
Okay, great. And then just a note for Jonathan, I can't ever make comments in the Google Docs of the policy docs anymore. So. But I want to make comments. Okay, we can take that offline. Thank you. I'm done.
Director Nimmo?
I was able to open it. I think I just ended up getting out of the print screen or whatever. Maybe this is really silly, but the first paragraph under staff concerns, complaints, grievances. I felt a little when I read, we want this to be resolved at the lowest possible administrative level. Is there a different way to say that? That doesn't make it sound like.
The wording could potentially be more clear.
What we're trying to get at is we want them to go to their first boss or their.
Right, we want them
Yes,
to
that's the right
go,
way to
if
say
they're
that.
same level staff, we want them to attempt to work it out together, and if they can't, to approach a supervisor, but their supervisor might be someone in a school, we don't want them immediately going to Anna
Or you?
or you. So it's really, stating our intent to solve problems.
I guess I just wish there was a different way of saying it than the lowest possible administrative level. I don't, there's like this hidden feeling in there of like, don't bother anybody more important. And like I said, maybe I'm being silly, but I read that, I was like, whoa, wait. Yeah, it's just something to think about, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good push. The technical language may have an unintended effect.
Maybe, yeah,
Maybe.
and maybe I'm just overly sensitive. Okay, so that, and I wasn't thinking of it as try to work it out amongst yourselves. Yeah, I mean, yeah, follow the chain of.
That's the intent of the language, though, to work it out amongst yourselves and then seek support at
If you
different
need
levels.
help, go to your immediate supervisor first.
That's outlined in depth in the accompanying regulation.
Yeah.
Okay, or could we just put that?
Well, there's,
Look at the regulated, I don't know, think about it. It's not something I'm gonna spend too much time on. Okay, thanks, sorry.
no, Director Nimmo, those are great comments. And the flag honestly is really important. Amy, just what you said too, like technical language that we're comfortable with and used to can have unintended effects on the way it's read outside. I think that's CASB recommended language and it's used frequently in HR conversations, but I think it's always okay to actually say how it feels when you read it. If it's helpful at all, I just wanted to flag the additional district language in that same policy, GBK. Concerns over, or just concerns should be reported immediately to the most appropriate supervisor, see accompanying regulation. And just kind of along what you were saying of like, how will they know who to talk to? We put that in intentionally to note that occasionally you can't actually talk to your direct supervisor, like if that is the actual big concern. And so we chose the language most appropriate supervisor to sort of direct staff in that way. Like we are willing to hear if you need to go around someone because of a unique issue. So policy staff was trying to carry that through a little bit. I appreciate the work that's gone into these. I think the biggest concern when they came up in policy committee was whether classified staff had a chance to take a look. Thank you so much for bringing that to them. I can see notes from Ben on a few and really appreciate that. And these are all first read tonight. Is that correct? And then we have one more and then consent or no? Okay, perfect. Thank you. If we have other questions, we have 5 minutes for open discussion.
One thing, sorry, two things. Sorry, Director Pullenberg. For GDO, it says the Human Resources Department. Is there a reason we didn't put the Chief of Human Resources there?
I don't know. It was the district before, and I asked that it be a specific department or person, so.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think it's fair for us to have moved it to Human Resources because that's where it belongs, but I think it would make more sense to me, especially since the cadence of what we do with most policies is put the person. So I would push us to maybe put the Chief of Human Resources there instead. Sure. And then for GDBA support staff wages, I was just gonna ask, is there any way we can change annually the superintendent will present wait.
Yeah, I just added that language, the annually the superintendent will present and the board will approve.
Yeah, and I think it's fine. I just think, and the board will approve or for board approval.
Yeah, we'll present for board approval. That's better. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else on these policies?
That's it. Thank you.
On GBK, the additional sentence from labor management doesn't make sense to me. For example, certified teachers should reference the collaborative bargaining agreement for the process of resolving grievances and contractual agreements therein.
Go for it.
Big stab at it. Okay, so this really felt like we needed to reference the collaborative bargaining contract, which is actually contract, so we should change the language there.
I understand the purpose of it is that wording does not read, like it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, what we were trying to lift up is that certified teachers, if they have concerns or complaints or grievances about rights that are codified in their contract, they need to refer to the contract. But it's only for things that are in the contract. So that if they have an issue about some other policy that's outside the contract, this is their process. And to be honest, we went a little bit back and forth because we initially had language that just said at the top something to the effect of like certified staff should reference the CBC for grievances related to topics covered in the CBC. And then I think labor management kind of said, no, let's not put it first. It's duplicative. It's already at the bottom. Leave it there. Am I right? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was Kath.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I just said it was duplicative and we should delete one of them. I just think that it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Am I the only one not reading like it, that it's not clear to?
Oh, the funky, but I guess, but again, like I'm the inside of that language. So if it doesn't make sense on the outside, then we should maybe wordsmith it. It's gone back and forth a few times and I don't think we would need to take it back to LMC if we make, wordsmith level
No, I think
changes.
we understand the intent of LMC that the collaborative bargaining contract, that's the vehicle they'll use for any sort of grievance related to the contract. And they're still going to use this policy for everything else. So the intent is clear. I agree with you that the language could be clarified, but I don't exactly know how.
Okay,
Do you want to see this come back to policy committee with that
I
one?
mean, I can just draft some language really quick. You want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys can look at it.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not quite tracking where the loss is. So yeah, if you can jump into that one. Any other concerns or questions about policies? Remember, we have a number of them being repealed as well. And those revisions will show up on consent. All right. The next business in order is a discussion on the pre-kindergarten tuition for 26-27. And this is again, the agenda change, taking it out of action item and bringing it into discussion.
Just.
9.2, thank you.
Sorry, and I'm happy to start since I'm the one that made this motion if you would like.
I think staff had comments they wanted to open with or offer any context or conversation.
I think maybe we jump in. No, we really just have a memo.
Do you mind for me? Because I can't see anything.
Oh, I'm going to share it directly to your email if you want to just jump in. And Tammy, do you need it as well?
No, I figured it
Wait,
out.
sorry, you want me to go for it?
Staff's going to lead. Then we'll
Okay.
jump into
I
comments and
thought
questions.
Anna said they didn't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, what I can name is, I mean, I guess big high level things, points for our community and folks listening in is that we are bringing to the board needs, as you all know, is required to approve any sort of fees or tuition that we issue to our families. And so the board has historically and will continue to approve our early childhood education tuition rates. So we are bringing those back to the board with a couple of substantive changes that we want to lift up. One is pretty significant increases that vary across programs, anywhere from 5% to 36% of increases in tuition rates. The reason for that, there's a couple of reasons for those increases. One, in our analysis of comps, which we understand that the board would like a deeper dive into, is how those comparable analyses were conducted. And so we can bring that back to you on the 25th. One of the big reasons was around our comparables. Another in wanting to make sure that we were issuing tuition that feels like it kind of going rates. And I would say that's also important knowing that as a district, we have historically in the last couple of years, since we've been able to look at early childhood education, and the board is well aware that we are subsidizing our early childhood education programs anywhere from $1.2 to $1.5 million from our K-12 fund. Given the pressures we're experiencing, we're really trying to figure out ways to reduce that subsidy to early childhood education. Increasing tuition is one small piece of that. Making sure that we are hanging with comps matters because of the way we utilize blended funding, and we have so many reimbursement and scholarship programs for families with tuition. We need to post rates that appropriately reflect cost to deliver services. I would still say we are bleeding money, and specifically on our infant and toddler rooms, we have very low ratios in those rooms. And so we are making this, it is an aggressive push to increase that tuition. I would name a couple of other motivating factors around this include, yes, again, trying to rein in the district's general fund contributions to preschool. Two, we are hoping to build an early childhood education budget that actually allows us to strengthen our ability to increase early childhood teacher salaries, which are currently not meeting comparable averages across our region. We want to continue to provide high quality preschool programming. And so that's one of the big changes. The other big changes that we're proposing to transform what was the staff sliding scale into a staff tuition assistance program, allocating less dollars to that. We are optimistic that 7A will be able to jump in, aligned with their service plan to provide scholarships to local families. We're hoping that will be up and running by 27. And then if not, we will continue to support Roaring Fork Schools staff through a tuition assistance program managed by the FRC. Currently, the sliding scale is just managed by our enrollment teams. And it's just issued pretty about a comprehensive conversation with families about their goals and interests and strengths, and if they're actually eligible for other types of support and resources. So those are the big takeaways. And I know in response to questions and concerns, are really wanting to make sure that this is a first discussion and that we come back to you on February 25th with more of the comps so that you can look at that and any additional follow-up as a result of this conversation. So really interested in your questions, concerns, pushes, what you would need to feel comfortable to better take action on a proposal around early childhood tuition.
Thanks. I'm going to hand it over to Director Kuhlenberg first, and then Director Nimmo, you'll go after.
Yeah, and I shared some of those earlier today. I think for me, I wasn't prepared to take action on this because this is such a massive jump that I don't see aligning with comps. And I think that we're still, especially on our infant and tuition rates, and specifically in Basalt, we're really far outside of what other large providers in Basalt are charging for full-time care. And confirmed that with them today. Like, called directors and asked what their rates are and what they're going to raise them next year. And they are about the same, or in one case, exactly the same as ours this year, and they're raising 3 to 5% next year. So jumping 37% doesn't feel okay for me for infant care or toddler care. So I definitely have some concerns around that, and I have concerns around us eliminating our sliding scale tuition. I think that I would love to know more about where we are in terms of continuing to provide this as an employee benefit. I think that for me, it's a benefit that our employees need, that our administrators need to keep teachers in the classroom, in broader early childhood research, right? When you have employer-based care, you have long-term committed, high-quality employees that stick with you. And if that's what we are pushing for through the MLO, through other initiatives, I think we would be cutting off our nose to spite our face by eliminating infant and toddler care for our staff. And I would be against that. And then I have like one very specific question is I don't understand why the rates in Basalt are between $2 and $8 higher per day when you break it down today to a day rate. They don't align. So I know Basalt goes more days and that doesn't account for the difference. So curious why it's a higher rate in Basalt.
Well, let me take a look at that. It definitely is based over more like their extended day program runs a different calendar and has more days.
And it's not based on that. When you break it down to like per diem, like for infant care and Basalt, it's 123.38, and everywhere else it's 116. So I don't know if it was just because we wanted to get to like a round number of 25.50 or
yeah.
But I definitely feel some pressure being like the Basalt representative, since we just 2 years ago merged with Growing Years and took away a large center with extended days and hours. And increasing this dramatically, $700 a month for families is catastrophic for some families. And I think too that we as a board asked last year about why we're only asking for full-time 5-day enrollment for infants and toddlers. And I would want to flag that again for the board. I think that is not what most people want for their infants and toddlers. And we potentially open up more seats for people in the community if we allow for 3- and 2-day enrollment and allow directors to link that one spot to cover 2 kids. So those are all my big flags.
You know, my only, and we'll chase down some of those details and have those numbers. I think my only thought on that, like 3- and 2-day, and I remember we definitely have discussed this in the past. It is really hard to be everything for everyone in early childhood and make budgets work. And I think one of the things that we definitely acknowledged was like, we're not going to be able to pull that off. And so that we needed to get really clear on what we're doing and what we're offering And, when we think about infants and toddler rooms, I would say they are very far from core to our mission as a district in terms of what we subsidize these for. Not that it's not important, and I do agree with you, it is a benefit for staff. And I actually think we could probably pull last year classified staff to a survey on feedback on benefits. This was the lowest rated and lowest valued benefit that we offer because it is only applied to certain families. And so I'd say, I hear the push on, if we were more flexible with this, if we did things slightly differently, I would say where we feel like we've targeted, if we're going to run this, aligns to exactly Director Kohlenberg, what you said was that this really is kind of a benefit for our working staff members who need 5 days. And so,
I mean, I would just push back on that a little bit because most people, when they have a 1, 2, and sometimes even 3-year-old, when they're working full time, they're braiding different types of care and they're utilizing childcare trades to save money. They're utilizing parents. They're splitting their own schedules. And I think that it makes it out of reach for people.
Director Nimmo? Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I'm pretty overwhelmed by this. I feel like I need more time. But I'm just thinking back, over the few past 10 years or so being involved in the schools, and definitely I share a lot of concerns that Catherine is talking about. I think if we offered 5 days a week to our full-time teachers for free or, for very, very low rates, then that would be helpful. But like, I'm thinking of people I know who, like the husband works and makes really good money, but the mom still has to work because his really good money still isn't enough. And even working at Crystal River Elementary School full-time, like so much of their income, and this is not classified staff, though what I'm mostly thinking of, it just takes, I don't know, takes up so much of her income, and yet she can't work without it. But it's unfortunate that it is so expensive. And I don't know how we would do it, but I also agree that it would be nice to offer more flexibility and lower rates. Director Ramirez?
So, I want to push the team moving forward. It would be really helpful to give the board more time to review this. And I'm not talking about like the Friday before in an agenda. I'm talking about at least 2 weeks, because I think similar to what we've had in the past years, there are a lot of questions, concerns, and ECE is something that is very, I think, important to this board, and also is something that, like, as parents and as community members who are often advocating for families, who are often pushing for new housing and 3-bedroom units because we want our families or our teachers to grow in this place, it's hard to come to this conversation and be like, but also we're gonna stop providing this. Like that, to me, it feels really hard to reconcile, where we value staff benefits because not everybody gets to tap into it, when I feel like this is exactly the same conversation we're having about housing. This is exactly this is not a one size fits all, and we know that. And to say like we're gonna now cancel the sliding scale for teachers is really hard, because those kids are gonna be our kids, and we're gonna get that money back eventually in some shape or form if they stay here. And so I appreciate the team's effort to make sure that this came back to the board, that this was for discussion tonight. I think that there are a lot of concerns in regards to this increase feels drastic. I understand that I understand the strain, I understand the moment, and I also feel like I don't know that this is the right way to go about this. This feels very, it feels hard. This feels like we've committed to this. We've we've said that this was an important thing for so long. And I also feel like one of my questions is like the dynamic between putting the FRC liaison in each school now in a sort of power dynamic or relationship dynamic with a teacher that is trying to go back to school. Like I don't know how that will work. And I'm a little curious about if you guys have had conversations of that. Have you even considered that? Because I don't know that a teacher is gonna want to tell a family liaison like, hey, I'm struggling like financially or with so and so, and here's my information. I mean, I don't know that that doesn't happen, but I
Director
also am
Ramirez,
concerned
can
about
we
that.
Save the rest for open discussion.
Sure.
Director After?
Thanks. Yeah, I just had a few questions to help me understand. How many of the students, like roughly, how many of the students that we're talking about, or the kids that we're talking about, are the children of staff, and how many are, I guess, members of the public who are not?
For like infant and toddlers?
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers offhand, but we can absolutely get
But like rough
data.
like proportion, like 50-50, 75 staff, 20, because this whole program was developed originally for the children of RFSD staff, right? And then we backfill openings with members of the public. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I was curious, Dr. Cole, about your comment that it's not core to our mission. I mean, that's provocative, I think. So I'd be curious if you want to say more about that. And then I also wondered how, I was just trying to find it on the website and I couldn't, how ECE in general is or is not part of our strategic plan. Is it even in our strategic plan if it's not core to our mission?
It's not named in our strategic plan. I would certainly say early childhood education is core to our mission. We wouldn't invest $1.5 million in it, or the staff time and capacity for folks that aren't on the ECE budget that invest time if it wasn't aligned. You know, we have a statutory requirement to provide educational services for kids with disabilities ages 3 to 21. So what school districts typically do to serve students with special needs at age 3, knowing that students with special needs at age 3 are best served in high quality inclusive preschools as they run them themselves. And so we, have invested in preschools and trying to run and support high quality inclusive preschools. We extended into toddler care and infants as kind of this trying to really support staff for all the reasons you mentioned. And it is a benefit that, as you mentioned, Director Ramirez does not serve a large population of staff, which is why I think when you survey staff at large, they're like, yeah, this is not an important benefit. It doesn't serve many people. It does have an impact, absolutely, for the staff that can find childcare there. I would say we are in a place of having to really reckon with our investments. And we are going to have to stop doing things. And if we want to choose to continue to subsidize if we want to choose to continue to subsidize infant and toddler classrooms, it comes at a significant cost, which I think historically felt maybe more tolerable and doesn't as much anymore from the admin's side. And that's hard to say. And I know that's hard for our families. And these are big subsidies to stand up these programs. And we need to reckon with that, given our current context. And I totally hear the push on like, we need more time, we need more data. I agree with you. We've got 18,000 things we're trying to push out right now. It was very urgent for us to get school leaders their budgets. It was very urgent to do the 1,000 of other things that we're meeting with tax and we're meeting with teams in terms of getting finance out and meeting, as I mentioned, me mostly meeting Chief Chacoin and I, are doing a ton of presentations on budgets and where we are with certified and classified IBB right now. And we're up against, we're doing preschool enrollment right now. And we have historically gotten this to you guys in like May, which is far too late for kids and families. And so we set aggressive time schedules to get this to you. And yeah, you didn't get it till Monday. We got it as soon as we could. You're pushing on great data that we need to bring. And I hear that you need to see more on all of that. And I think we can pull out, if we can, the actual cost to run these classrooms and what we're actually generating in tuition. It doesn't work financially. It puts us in the red, and we are going to have to decide if that's more important than other cuts at this point and moving forward. And I also do think that I'm optimistic about what 7A is going to do. And, that it is part of the service plan is scholarships for families. And I think, we leverage UPK, we leverage CCAP, we leverage Early Head Start, we leverage Kids First where appropriate. FRC kicks in. We've had the staff sliding scale. So we're doing all the things. And 7A is going to be one more thing that we're going to help families navigate and access. I would really like to see the district step out of subsidizing this at the level that we're pushing hard on trying to make sure that we're staying engaged with 7A conversations, helping folks understand what we're allocating here. And it's just getting hard to continuing to do all the things and the nice to do's. And I think we're going to have to start making hard decisions about what is a must do and what's a nice to do. And I think this is the beginning of those kinds of conversations for us. And these will continue for the next 3 to 5 years as we reckon with the real impacts of declining enrollment and trying to do everything for everyone. We can't. And I'm delighted to bring you more information, and let's really get into the details of what this costs. And maybe this isn't one of the things that the board supports us pulling back on or pulling back to this extent, and that's fine, but we're going to have to come up with more things then. Because the way we're operating, we cannot sustain given where we're headed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that's the right framing is what is the list of priorities that this entire organization is dealing with and where our cuts going to be made. And I guess like a coaching piece here would be, if you're open to it, is because you said that we're bleeding money from this or something like that. And I see that, and I see that's true. And this is not a revenue generating organization. It's not a for-profit. And so you could put almost anything we do in that category. And so I think it's, and I don't know if this would be possible, but I think if you bring us things piecemeal, it's going to be hard over the next years. It's going to be a lot harder and less strategic to make prioritization decisions than if we were looking at a big list, for example, and rank ordering what this board and this community feel are the priorities. But I agree with my colleagues that more time is important on this. But also if you present us revenue line items like this in this way, and then we're asked to make a decision, it's just going to be really hard to be strategic if it's done in a one-off
Thank you, Director.
manner.
Yeah. Can I add just one perspective on this too? Because I just believe that right now we're in a very awkward space. And so what we're doing with our finances is that now we have the information earlier. The board isn't used to it. The executive team isn't used to it. And now we're looking and forging our way forward. And it is an awkward space because now not only that are we moving from a district that has had money and has had increase in enrollment to a district with declining enrollment. And it's a fair push from the board to say, hey, I don't know what this looks like, what you guys are really grappling with. And it's a fair push from the superintendent to say, we are grappling with a lot right now. And it's really tough to know exactly the timing to provide that information to the board, because we need to also have that time to wrap our heads around all of these different issues. And there's also these pushes from the timing that's needed from the preschool side too. And so that's part of our work this year, is to make sure that we're providing the information at the time it needs to be, and no earlier, no later, to make sure that it's vetted enough to be able to provide the board with quality information and not just information. Because right now, I can tell you that I'm going to own this, that the superintendent and the executive team and a lot of the schools and what they're grappling with getting their budgets are an information overload and what to do and how to balance their budgets. And we want to make sure to provide that in a way that has good context and I appreciate the board's pushes and we're definitely going to provide that information to you. I understand that. And we're going to need to also grapple with those timelines to be able to do exactly what you're saying, to provide those lists so that the community can be engaged and involved in those decisions as well. And we are planning to do that at the time necessary. And we're going to give you guys enough time. And that was the biggest push when I came here, is that we don't have any time to look at our budgets. And so now we have a lot of time. And so what do we do with this time and what is the right time? And we're going to make sure to be really thoughtful when we provide that information to you so that you can have very meaningful conversations and that it's not going to create you spinning as well in doing that. So I just wanted to just give you that context as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the context there. It is funny, Director, after you hit the nail on the head too, it's like it feels as though, how do we decide if this is the priority if we don't know what else is at stake? And recognizing very clearly, we will be making unpopular, unpleasant decisions to be able to move forward, and also recognizing our staff leadership and our staff is already facing those conversations. So I just want to name that this is a moment which I don't think there is a playbook for our district, like you said, especially on this board, different world, different place. You got to start with this one, though. The babies. I also name it's hard to look at it objectively. It's a moment in time for staff that they're at their most vulnerable. You're scraping around, trying to build a new life, find your new resources, trying to figure out who's going to take care of this tiny human you just made. And so even though it doesn't win in the numbers game, that time in life is a very influential factor on whether people decide to stay or go. And I know of folks, myself included, who made that decision because of those moments, even though in 5 years it'd be a lot easier. So that's just a context there. I also just want to name that as we discuss hiring, I forget who said it, I apologize, I'm reiterating here. We're raising teacher salaries potentially through this MLO, and we're saying staff recruitment and retention is really important. This is a part of staff recruitment and retention. It's not an auxiliary random program. And so that's something to consider. And then one other piece just on the timing. We know 7A is getting on their feet, and we know that a lot of work is being done, but that there's a bit of a ramp still before we're going to see those benefits. If this program is there, I think there's a matter of like, how soon does it have to go? Could we bridge it? Could we consider God, I don't know how many things you guys are keeping there, I know. Is there a way to continue to consider bridging from now until 7A is better established and how that plays out? I understand that's a lot of an ask. Anyway, I'm going to open up the floor again. I know there were a few more comments from several of the directors, so 5 minutes of open discussion. Director Ramirez, did you want to finish up your thoughts there?
Yeah, on the ECE at a glance, on the tuition funding sources, the revenue pre-K tuition included UPK, IEP tuition, and then you had UPK listed separately. Can you explain
I think we had the same question last year.
Is it this one here? The UPK, the 1,947,000 number?
Yeah.
Oh, on the one above it indicates UPK also.
Yeah, good question.
It's pretty much by funding source. The preschool tuition is looking at our local funding from preschool tuition, and the UPK is the supplement from the state that we get for those tuitions. Isn't that right, Anna?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going back to the link source. I think that's just a typo in there, what number that's referring to. What that UPK should pull out, sorry. Yeah, we're gonna need to update those. But it's essentially, I mean, those should be split. A tuition is one thing and UPK is separate, so that shouldn't, that second one should not read UPK IEP. Tuition scholarship.
Yeah, that's just the tuition itself that's garnered, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, good catch.
Sorry, a follow-up question on that same sheet for salaries. I just wanted to clarify, when we're talking about MLO and salaries, we're including ECE, right? Okay, great. thank you. Just wanted to make sure I followed up on that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll call out, this is, classified IBB's working on this. Right now, those salaries are about 9% below comps. If we were, that's probably one of the farthest off employee groups we have right now. And that, classified is well aware of that.
But we offer full health insurance, which is very rare in the EC world.
And
So
retirement.
that brings them well above comps when you bring that in. It's super complex, right? But I don't know. My last comment would just be to piggyback on what Director DeFrady said. I think with everything that is up in the air with 7A right now, it doesn't behoove us to make structural changes that are going to invite negative feedback from our staff, or potentially negatively impact their lives. And ultimately our administrators' lives, because they're going to have teachers that are forced to leave if they don't have childcare or they can't afford it. And I just think that it would be smarter for us to let that shake out and see what that funding looks like from 7A before we commit to large structural changes of what we offer and what we do in the EC world.
I was going to say, it almost seems to me like it might be better to say, hey, we can't keep doing this, and to just drop the program altogether and free up those employees to go open their own preschools or to go work at, the other places that are going to be beefing up and saying, okay, now we have 7A. I'm just wondering if if somehow the whole community would benefit from us, instead of saying we're going to jack our prices up and still try to run a preschool, toddler, maybe we just say we're not.
Well, and then can you please share, especially, I think there's not a lot of history on our ECE program, and I know that there's some details in here, but can you share a little bit of like what we've done and why? I think like Director Kuhlenberg was mentioning, like in Basalt, it's also a very touchy subject.
Yeah, and we tried to capture some of that on the ECE at a glance, because you're right, Director Ramirez, and you've lived through a lot of this with us. We stepped back in 21, 22. Before UPK was launched, and the state was talking about it, we knew that we needed to get really clear on who we were and who we were serving. Because at the time, our early childhood programs, I would say, we're trying to do everything for everybody and had very strange schedules. And we did not have a budget that we could pull out and actually look at. We've always had amazing educators and wonderful people in the program and really great programs, but we needed to step back and really get clear on who we were and how we were going to prep ourselves for UPK. So we stepped back and did a big strategic plan to identify really who we work for and recognize that we can't do all the things in the ECE ecosystem. And we were going to get really good at the things that we felt were our niche. And so that's why you'll see in the ECE at a glance on the bottom of page 1, where we really named who we're here to serve. And what you don't see here is prioritizing flexible schedules, we really said we're in here to create high quality, inclusive environments, because students with disabilities are our most important group of kids that we're serving in early childhood. And then we said the next group would be children of district staff, children with a high number of qualifying factors, which are really emerging bilingual students children whose families' income is beneath the federal poverty level, those sorts of indicators, and that then we would open up for tuition paying families as needed.
Just a quick note, I'd happily add 5 more minutes to the discussion on this issue, if that's all right with everybody.
Yes.
And so then we did a lot of work with clarifying that in the strategic plan, but then we said, gosh, we need to do a ton of work on what does it mean to be high quality inclusive, and inclusive meaning students with disabilities served as much full-time as possible with typically developing peers in our classrooms. So we did a ton of work in 22, 23, 23, 24 with the Pele Center to really create what is for us this high quality inclusive framework of how we run preschools and what our classrooms should look like. And then in 23, 24 was, we've had the red brick building, which sits kind of on the Basalt Middle School campus, and we had 2 preschools running out of one building. So on one side you had Growing Years, which was private preschool. On the other side you had the Basalt Early Childhood Program, which was a district program. And if you just stood outside at in the morning and watched, you'd say, wow, why do we have segregated schools here? And so we worked for a long time with really strong collaborative leadership from Growing Years, from their board, from their leaders to really bring together those programs. And as a result of that, the commitment that we made in Basalt was a little bit different, which was that we would run a year-round program with extended days of care that doesn't necessarily follow the complete like 2 weeks off at Christmas that our schools get. And so the Basalt schedule is a little different, and we run a summer program up there. And we needed to pick up infants. We had never had infant rooms. And so we have an infant room in Basalt, and then this year we opened an infant room at Riverview, really around that staff need. What am I missing?
It's a pretty good summary. I'm wondering, since there's a lot of concern and consideration here,
Sorry, what?
if it's data, this is my one point is if it's further data related, let's drop it in the tracker. If it's missing from this, go ahead.
And I just want to add, like, infants is obviously like infant, but toddler rooms have existed in all of our pre-Ks.
Yeah, I think, gosh, that's a really good question. I think they've been there. Like, we typically have 3 or 4 preschool rooms and a toddler room. And that had been there kind of with the staff interest. And then we opened the infant rooms when Basalt came online. And then Riverview, it felt like we could pull it off there. And so they have been kind of a nice to do, the infants. I mean, it feels like more of a commitment in Basalt because of what Growing Years is doing. The toddler rooms have always kind of been hanging on there. But I would say that the infants and toddlers did not emerge from our strategic plan as this is essential that we run these programs. And to be honest, Director Nimmo, a lot of our school district peers are doing exactly what you're naming, and they're closing their toddler rooms because of similar pressures. And so, yeah, that is an option.
Can
I add one thing go ahead.
Sorry.
You have something on
I just wanted to mention ECE tuition sheet that you provided to us. On that Spanish section, it has 25, 26. Just so they have that.
Thank you.
But I think it would be also helpful for the board to see last year's, if you could send that to us, please.
It's linked in the memo.
I think it's
Where is it?
In the memo.
It's a little further down.
Oh, my bad, sorry.
Can I make one?
Yeah,
Chief
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry. One other note, that is an impact of these, if we are this far below comps, which is what our analysis is showing, then we are, under collecting all the additional revenue we can get from UPK, from all these other CCAP sources, because it's based upon the tuitions that we set. So that every time that we're, understating our tuition, then our revenues from all these other sources are also understated. So it's almost got a double and tripling effect, especially because I really believe that the school district utilizes that funding very well for our families. And that's one of the pushes as far as how to be able to get this program out of the hole with the general fund. So that would just be something that I would encourage even though it was a tough conversation tonight, and I think it was great pushes from the board, I'm grateful that we are now able to have 2 conversations on this very important topic. So, but that would be one thing that I would just suggest as we come forward with the additional information that you would consider.
I'm curious if there's an opportunity for an either or with the increase in tuition, but not getting rid of the sliding scale, or vice versa. Or if they both have to go hand in hand to have any meaningful impact at all. So, yeah. I think that's a good amount of discussion.
Wait, one more
Do we
thing.
need one more thing?
Sorry. Chief Chacoin, I wanted to thank you because I agree, and I think you pushed us tonight on just recognizing that the board still needs to have more information. And also the same that we've been having this conversation in my finance committee Monday, right? We're getting to a better cadence of information, and this is the norm of where we should be moving forward. And so we appreciate the opportunity to have more time to talk about these things. And similar to what I said to you on Monday, I want to make sure I say it here for the board meeting and for the board, that if there is a subject area or a budget that you think is important for us to review, I would much appreciate, as the board treasurer, that you guys provide the board with the opportunity to either attend a work session or an opportunity to meet as a team or individually with you to have further discussion, rather than just getting to the end and having a board that has more questions than answers on the board budget or on the budget, the district budget. So just to push.
No, thanks. Yeah, and I know Superintendent Cole has been pushing me pretty hard to make sure that the finance committee is going to have a lot of great content during this this whole budget season, and that it's going to be action packed and fun filled for those that love budgeting. So we've got a lot planned for you guys. Thank you for the push.
Okay. Thank you all so much. We can look at the timing if this needs to be squeezed into work session. The 25th is really dense already as far as an agenda with the appeal hearing. So that I would encourage you to use the board tracker if you feel like this conversation is ending and you have lingering questions. So please take a look at that or add comments on the notes or the memo. The next business in order is approval of the resolution honoring Black and African American History Month. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution honoring Black and African American History Month?
I make a motion to approve the resolution honoring Black and African American History Month.
Do I have a second?
A second.
We will now have 2 minutes discussion for each board member and 5 minutes of open discussion. Director After?
Thank you for putting this resolution forward. I don't have any questions or comments.
Director Nimmo?
Thank you. And I also don't have any questions or comments.
Director Ramirez?
Thank you, Jonathan, for making sure this made it to our agenda. You know, I've been reflecting a lot on the push that we've done as a board over the past couple of years to make sure we are adding resolutions honoring not only important months of recognition to staff, community, students, but also I think this is just such an important habit for us to get into, to take a moment to pause and really reflect on the historic contributions that different communities have provided, not just our school district, but the great state of Colorado and our country as a whole. And I think in a moment like this, where already so many things have happened this month, I feel particularly grateful that we're taking time to read this resolution.
Director Kuhlenberg?
I'd echo those sentiments. I'm grateful that we have this on the agenda and that we've gotten to the cadence of doing this regularly. Thanks, Jonathan, for ensuring that it made it on there.
I also appreciate the time and thoroughness of staff and my fellow colleagues to establish this practice. And are there any intervening motions to amend? Then we call the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We will now read the resolution honoring Black and African American History Month. I can take a read, or anyone else is welcome to if they feel compelled.
I would love to do it.
Sure.
Whereas the month of February is set aside each year to honor, celebrate, and remember the struggles, achievements, sacrifices, and contributions Black and African Americans made on behalf of the United States of America and the world. And whereas the recognition of Black and African American History Month is an opportune time to salute the achievements of the past, gain insight into the present, inspire progress for the future, and teach our students about American heroes of color. And whereas we celebrate the diversity of Black and African American people in the Roaring Fork School District, our nation, and the Black diaspora, whether they self-identify as African, African American, Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean, or Black. And whereas in educating the children in the Roaring Fork schools, it is appropriate that all children learn about, reflect upon, and cherish the contributions that Black and African Americans, both past and present, have made to our nation in the realm of the arts, business, civil rights, education, entertainment, military, music, law, literature, politics, religion, science, and much more. And whereas we believe our diversity is a strength, where students' diverse ethnicities and cultures create rich educational and cultural experiences for the entire school community. And whereas we remain committed to serving, inspiring, and promoting student success while improving student equity and access to high quality education. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Roaring Fork School Board of Directors do hereby resolve February to be Black and African American History Month in the Roaring Fork schools and strongly encourage staff and community to reflect on the rich history and teaching of Black and African Americans and bear witness to the progress and achievements they have made in our country.
Thank you. The next business order is board updates and appreciations, and we'll begin with Director Nimmo.
Ooh, never quite ready for this.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Lobs it right over
I
to
have
the-
to think. What do I have? What do I have for updates?
Deck.
Yeah, what would I say? We have like.
Just tell
We
us
have 10 people. We're working to get more. Our goal is to get 4 teachers total. So I'm really working hard on trying to get more schools represented and get more people in there. We did have a good group there this last time. Huh?
Georgetown.
Oh, yeah. And I will not be here for the 25th. I believe I can zoom in, but I will be at Georgetown trying to figure out finances because nothing I have done in my history has ever been related to finances. So I'm going to Georgetown. I'm excited to, I don't know, go walk the mall. And yeah, I'm also part of school board partners. I can't keep things straight right now. But yeah, I will just say thank you to all of you guys. I need to say thank you to Jonathan. I am a little worried over the next couple months. I'm gonna drop some balls with all of these school visitations and conversations and my classes and stuff like that. So I don't know, I guess forgive me in advance and don't be afraid to remind me of things. But thanks everybody for your really hard work, all of you.
Director After?
No substantial updates for me. We talked about the NLO and the Finance Committee. And I'm grateful to all of you and the staff. Thank you.
Director Klulenberg?
Have a health insurance advisory committee coming up this week. So I should have an update on that next time around. Policy committee already get me updates. Housing, I haven't had. And my appreciation is I try to always make it result focused. My community. So Dr. Cole mentioned that it is the access testing period. We also test for Avant at BES, which is testing English language speaking students in their Spanish acquisition. So we go both ways. So double the testing happening there. And so a shout out and appreciation for the staff and the students for making that happen.
Director Ramirez?
Updates. Yesterday was the DAC meeting. Thank you, Director Nimmo, for being in person. We joined online, just, flu is going around. So thank you to our staff. I just want to appreciate staff because I know it's been a crazy couple of weeks. I know our valley has been hit with, all types of bugs. And just being able to have, our staff be there to, sub in or, support in all the different ways they're doing right now with sick kiddos and sick staff has been really vital to our school district and to our schools. So thank you. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to join classified IBB this morning. I did read the notes. Thank you, team, for all your work on that. I made 2-3 agenda items on my calendar for March. And just to thank you, team, for making sure that we are meeting with classified IBB and having those conversations. And I think it's just really important that we push on that. And I know, I've heard from conversations with classified staff, how it feels really good to have that, even if it feels hard to get people to participate in that core group. And then finance committee was Monday. So thank you again, team, for just the opportunity to talk through finance and also talk through maybe more sessions in the future, just to discuss some of the higher level things and constraints and I think budgets that I think all of us all of this is new for us, even having, I mean, like, this is, you think about it, like, yes, this is year 2 of finance committee, but also like we're just getting on the right path with it. And so it feels different. And I just want to continue to push the team that, like, yes, it feels hard, and also we're doing the right thing. And thank you guys for being committed to that that high level expectations and professionalism in your roles. So yeah, stay safe, everyone. Don't get sick.
I've been busy on a few committees. LMC continues to meet, facilitating the IBB process for certified staff and making sure the contract discussions are clear. We've really been focusing on aligning what these bargaining areas will look like. Will they be attached to the contract? Will they take on their form? And we're going to hear from IBB in the next few weeks. What is the date on their next one? Is it March? So we will be getting a presentation directly from IBB. Then, sorry, the MLO committee continues to meet as well. A big shout out to the comms work that was done to get tonight off the ground. The website is launched. That was Kelsey Bean, making sure we have our talking points lined up and printed and available. A press release just went out if you didn't see that. So it is out in the community. It will be talked about. Please take a minute to look at the FAQs, especially because the language there is really intentional to support board members and staff as they go out and discuss these. And I think they've also been linked in some board memos or updates from Friday as well. And then the CASB Legislative Resolution Committee, it's still pretty early in the session, so there's a lot of talk about the special ownership tax, like I mentioned before, that seems unlikely to be moving forward. There was an interesting bill brought forward to reevaluate the efficacy of assessments throughout the state and offer districts the choice to test encourage them to test at the lowest required level and carefully evaluate what resources were put into it. And I asked if bills like this had been brought forward in the past. They said yes. I said, do they ever go anywhere? They said no. But in this legislative resolutions committee, the committee is formed and organized by CASB, and the members vote on support, amend, or oppose positions, offering CASB lobbyists the opportunity to move through the halls and talk to legislators as this develops. And there'll be a lot more going on. There's always conversations around like debrucing education. There's just a really, really brutal focus on money in the budget right now in all of these conversations. So CASB delegates or CASB advocates work to bring forward the concerns of the committee and then districts throughout the state. Sorry, I'm running out of words, guys. I apologize. And then I think that about wraps up a lot of the reports that I would have. A policy committee, you've already heard some thoughts from that. We'll make sure AE gets where it's supposed to be for next time. Sorry, that slipped through the cracks. And I want to appreciate Sopris Elementary staff. I want to congratulate Carrie Hassel on her new position as principal there. Officially, she was assistant principal, then interim this year, and then was hired, and it was announced this week. Big deal. And they kicked off their one book, one school reading. And I got to sit in my kid's classroom, and her teacher had all of us alternate with English and Spanish speaking students, taking turns with the paragraphs as we moved through the first chapter with a bunch of parents. And we even had donuts and tea. So it's not an easy feat. They decorated the whole school. They coordinated the whole thing. And it really brought a lot of families out that morning. It was a really good job. It was really fun. So great job, Ms. Carcaterra, for running that show. Okay, that's all I have for tonight.
I forgot to say, great job, Betsy, at the librarians thing.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to see it in person. I'm glad that I didn't because I had my 9-year-old and my husband was there. So I was like, we're just gonna go home. But then I was asking a lot about it and I saw Jamie LaRue and he was really grateful for your presence. And he said, you asked really good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have something to add.
Please.
Okay, I knew there was something in finance committee. We talked a great deal about the recent adequacy study or the assessment from Colorado School Finance Project that has a nice comparison of what it should take to pay the full cost of education, public education in the Roaring Fork School District. And I think that's an important message to get out to the community, especially as we're talking about the MLO.
That's a good flag, bring the adequacy study in because that has got some interesting
And
pieces.
so the link to that, if you guys don't have it, I think it's in a recent board update and it's also in the finance committee notes.
It is
Or I can send it.
compelling to say the least.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, if there is no further business and there is no objection, this meeting will be adjourned. It is 8:17 PM.